Tanya from Lovely Greens, and I'm a gardening and beauty DIY blogger, and I blog over on lovelygreens.com. You might have also been following me on Facebook. I also have a beauty business here on the Isle of Man and offer soap making lessons. And so I think it's fitting that for my very first Facebook Live that I show you how to make handmade soap. And what I'm going to show you tonight is how to make homemade peppermint soap. Now there's a link for the recipe on actually in the description of this video, and also over on my blog if you just go to lovelygreens.com. And there's also links for, oh, is there someone there? There's also links for my free soap making series, which is very popular on my blog. There's 4 parts to that. And also a link to my soap making classes that I give here on the Isle of Man. And I'm new to this, so I'm trying to see if I can see some comments. Let's see here. Well, I suppose they should pop up. Anyway, yeah, how are you doing tonight? I'm actually really curious. Where is everyone streaming from? Hi! Is it Shauna from Wisconsin? What time is it there? It must be what? 2 o'clock? 3 o'clock? Something like that? A lot lighter than it is here. Anyway, so let's get started. So we're making peppermint soap. And I'm going to do the format of this very similar to how I show people how to make soap in my soap making lessons. So let me just set this aside. First of all, it's, I look at making soap in 4 parts. So, and they're really kind of based around the ingredients. So you're going to have your lye water, which you make out of lye crystals. So I'll bring this up to the camera. And just ordinary water. Now, if you are living in an area that has hard water, you probably want to use filtered or bottled water. So that's one part. The other part, or the next part, is your solid oils. So some oils, oh, oh, the beauty of live. So some oils are solid at room temperature, and we're going to have to melt those, so that's why they're in the pan. The third part are liquid oils. So these are oils that you'll be more familiar with, olive oil, sunflower oil, that kind of a thing. And we have these set aside over here. And then the fourth part is actually all the ingredients and everything that you do at trace, so at the end of the soap making process. So we have essential oil, and we've got peppermint, obviously for our peppermint soap. We also have grapefruit seed extract, and we have a mineral color. This is chromium green oxide. And we also have dried peppermint. Can you see that? Bit of a reflection. So this I've actually gotten out of my own garden and dried. It's pretty easy to do. You can use your own peppermint to make the soap, or you can also use your own homegrown, which makes it even more special. So once we have the station set up, and we'll go through the equipment here in a second, we also need to be very aware of safety. So I'll be wearing these very sexy onion goggles and also some gloves when I start handling the lye. At my station, I have a hob, which you can see here. Let's see here. Oh, 2 o'clock it is. So we have a hob here, and I have some equipment. Very important with soap making that you have a stick blender. It's also called an immersion blender. And if you do use one for soap making, make sure that you just use it for soap making and you don't use it in the kitchen for making soups and whatnot. Other equipment, you'll need a stainless steel spoon for stirring your lye water. Just set this over here. This is a milk frother. Can you see that? This one I got from IKEA, and this is what you'll use to blend colors into oils. A variety of measuring spoons. Now these are really neat. So these are real tiny ones. They're kind of stained from use, but they're clean. And this is 1/8 of a teaspoon. I think that's called a dash. And a smidgen is 1/32. This one I use the most when I'm making small batches of soap. It's It's awesome for just doing little tiny amounts of mineral color. And then I also have a measuring spoon for measuring the essential oils. So I'll set that aside. Another very important thing to have is a digital thermometer. You need to be able to take temperatures of the lye water and of the oils. General stirring implements. It's great to have a spatula, and you'll see it will come in handy in a sec. Also, to make sure that there's no chunks of anything that get into the middle of your soap, whether it be color or anything else, you probably want to pass everything through a little strainer like this if you have one. And, oh, hello, Anna. Right, and as far as other equipment, oh, yes, of course, molds. So in my soap making classes, I generally ask people to, bring their own molds if they want. So silicone molds are great. You can also use milk cartons. So this one's a Tetra Pak one, but you can use paper ones as well. Yogurt pots, these are great. So you just fill it up, and then when you pop it out afterwards, you have completely round soap. Here's an example of a silica mold for making little tiny ones. So these are like little cupcakes. You can use a loaf mold. And then in a pinch, you can also use an ordinary cardboard box. And all you have to do is line it with paper, and you're good to go. Something like this is great. It has a lid on it and everything, so it'll keep it really nice and insulated. So we'll set that aside. We're going to use this takeaway container, and it's just an ordinary takeaway container or takeout container as well for you in the US from like a Chinese. And just if you want, you can actually reuse the ones that you get from the Chinese. Just make sure that it's not stained with whatever the contents were before. Right, and also I'm trying to like fit myself into the picture, so I'm a little bit hunched over here, so I apologize. Right, so I'll set that aside. And I think that we're ready to go. So the very first step is actually putting on our gloves and our very sexy goggles. Because dealing with lye, also called sodium hydroxide, you have to be very respectful of it. You shouldn't be scared. And I think a lot of people are turned off by the idea of making their own handmade soap because of that scary factor of dealing with lye. And I have actually had it spilled on me a couple of times, like little flecks, and you definitely know when it happens, but it's not a big deal. I've rinsed it off with water, no lasting marks, which has been great. Fantastic, so on with these. Set this aside as well. And the other thing is that I'm going to be moving and shuffling things around because I want you to be able to see everything that's happening here in front of me so you understand the process. So step number one, we're going to mix our lye solution. So I'm working here in the conservatory, and I'm just going to pop open this window because you really need to do this in a well-ventilated area. So your ordinary tap water and your lye crystals. Just dump it into the water. And there's a little bit of oil in there. We'll pick out that. It's not a big deal though. It's not a big deal. Right, okay. So we're just going to dump it straight in. No dawdling. And we're going to use that spoon here to stir it really well over here by the window. You see? Over here. Now the reason that I'm doing this is that there's steam that comes off and fumes, and it's really not that pleasant to breathe in. Oh, we just got a whiff of it there. Ooh. Now the steam is coming from heat. So this is it's a reaction between the lye and the water. Totally natural reaction. All soap is made with lye. Even the melt and pour stuff that you can melt in the microwave and make at home. So we're just going to stir this till it's completely dissolved. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is, because this soap, as you can see here, bring it a little bit closer, there's flecks of peppermint in it. So if you're going to make soap with a tea or an infusion, you can either make the tea first and strain out any bits, or you can just put the herb directly in. And so I'm just going to measure out some of this peppermint. Oh, that smells amazing. Straight into the lye water. And it kind of creates the tea for me. Now, the reason that I'm using a little bit of peppermint in the lye water is that this will help with the color. It'll warm up the color of the soap. Great. And because of that heat reaction, we want this to cool down. So we're just going to set this over here in a basin of water. So I've got a jug over here with a little bit of water in it, and I'm just going to set it over here to cool. We'll come back to it in a sec. So the next step is we're going to melt these solid oils, and on very low heat as well. They melt a lot quicker than you think, so we'll keep an eye on that and come back to it. And when I melt oils, I don't melt the solid oils until they're, I can take this off now. We don't melt them until they're completely liquid. I melt them until there's just a few chunks of oil at the top, and then I take it off the heat and let it melt on its own. Oh, thanks, Bren. Well, you could use some of the flowers and the herbs from your own garden to make soap. Right. What am I doing? Okay. So while that's melting, we're going to mix a little bit of the liquid oils with some mineral color. Now, I've got to be a little bit careful because this is a mixture of 3 different oils. 2 of the liquid oils are very light and they'll be floating kind of on the top. There's castor oil in there too, which is really thick, and we don't really want to mix that with a mineral color. So I'm just going to pour in a little bit of this. So not too much. And then I'm going to put in a smidgen, so this 1/32 of a teaspoon of the green mineral powder into the liquid oil. Right, let's measure that out. Who has a glass of wine? It's Friday night. Come on. I suppose those of you in the States probably won't have one. That's what I'd be doing right now if I were watching a soap making video. Right, so I've got my little milk frother doodaddy here, and we're just going to turn it on and blend it. Try not to, when you're using something like this, try not to lift it too much out of the oil, because you don't want to introduce too much air into your oils. We're trying to get that mineral powder to combine and to disperse into that oil. Yeah, the solid oils are melting here now too. Right. When you're making soap, it's always important to stay really organized and to be prepared. So as you notice, I have everything pre-measured here. So before I even started, I had the oils pre-measured using a digital scale as well. Use a digital kitchen scale. So that you don't have to worry about it in the process. Also, have your workstation completely set up. Close any doors and windows if you have pets. My cats love to jump in through the window if it's in the daytime and I'm making soap, which can be a bit of a headache. Also, yeah, just stay organized. If you've got kids or partners in the house, just tell them, you know, I'm making soap. You know, I've got to be really focused, and maybe they can entertain themselves for a little bit in the other room. Right, that's coming along, so I'll show you what this looks like. So it's kind of slushy. It's getting there. Needs a bit more time. Right. So I wanted to show you some other natural colors of soap as well. So we're making a peppermint soap that is green, obviously, from this green natural pigment. But there's other kinds of natural colors that you can use in making soap as well. And I have a great piece on my blog where I've done research and have listed as many natural colors, whether they're flowers or herbs or minerals, and the colors that they can produce. And I've experimented with quite a few of them, and I have links on, you know, daffodil soap, alkanet soap, and I have a few examples here as well. So this is a soap that I made recently, and the orange flecks are calendula flowers that I've grown. Oh, we've got some comments here. Wow, so clear. Oh, that'll be my new iPhone. Gin and tonic. Awesome. Yes, absolutely. So this is actually made with annatto seeds, and annatto seeds are used in Indian cooking and Far Eastern cooking, and they're used to give a mild flavor and also to tint, so to make things orange. And this is just absolutely astonishing, just how bright orange it is. And you can only smell the Mei Chang essential oil, so I'm really, really excited about this. This is one of the most vibrant natural colors I've come across. Even compared to this, look at that. So this is a naturally colored blue soap. It's rosemary, and this is actually one of the soaps that I retail through my shop. And it's made with a mineral pigment similar to this. And I've got a couple more. This purple color is made using a root, a plant root that comes from the south of France. It's called alkanet. I've tried growing it. It's really difficult. It really likes dry, ooh, this is coming on. It really likes dry and, you know, warm weather, which we don't really have here on the Isle of Man, but hey ho. We do have a native alkanet, and I do have that growing in my allotment garden, but I don't believe that it gives as vibrant a color as the alkanet from France. Another natural color that I use is honey, and I add honey to my lye water just in the same way as I did the peppermint, and it can give you this really beautiful brown color. If you use just a little bit of it, it can just be more of a light brown. This is a honey and lavender soap that I've made recently as well. Right, so it's time to start taking some temperatures. This I need to take off the hob so you can see, maybe tilt that. There's just a few little pieces left. So I'm going to just set this over on this side and let it cool a bit, turn that off, and come back to my lye water. So with my digital thermometer, I'm taking the temperature, and generally you want to make soap between 110 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's really funny, I use such a weird mixture of units. So I use Fahrenheit instead of Celsius, but I use grams instead of ounces. I'm a weirdo. Right, so this is exactly 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which I'll show you there. It looks like it's reversed in the image, but it's 120. That's great. Let me just stir these melted oils. I'm getting there just one little fleck left. Oh, I love making soap. It's so creative. And if you are a gardener and you grow things like calendula and different herbs, rosemary, thyme, so many of the culinary herbs can be used in making your own beauty products, but especially in soap. You know, sage creates such an amazing color. Calendula flowers stay that beautiful golden color like I showed here. It's fantastic. Right, so this is melted here. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this hob out of the way now because we don't need it anymore. So bear with me, I'm just going to move it aside. Right, so we've got this, our melted oils, we've got our lye water. First we've got to mix in the liquid oils into our melted oils. So first off, the green. Give that a swill, and through your strainer, pour it directly into the pot. And you'll see it caught quite a few flecks. You don't want that in your soap because otherwise there'll be those little flecks in there and it won't look great. I mean, it'll be functional, but you know, you want your soap to look great. And then also the other oils that we didn't tint straight into the pan. And we're going to use our spatula as well because the castor oil that is at the bottom is really thick and sticky and you want every last drop. What type of pan was that? Which pan? The pan, this one right here. This is just an ordinary stainless steel pan. And I actually, for my soap making classes, so I have quite a collection of pans, I actually go to the recycle center here on the Isle of Man and they have loads of pans. They have actually a metal skip and I'll go and ask the guys, hey, are there any pans in there? Because you really don't want to use the same pans that you're using for cooking for making soap, you know, because obviously they're coming into contact with your lye. Right, so that has combined. And now we've got to take the temperature of this. So there's this big thing with soap making that your oils and your lye have to be very close in temperature to one another. And I guess that is true, but I've experimented and I would say if it's within 10 degrees Fahrenheit of one another, you're fine. You're fine. When I first started making soap, there was, this is about 110. Watch, this will be exactly the same temperature. But when I was first making soap, I was so anxious about them being the same temperature. But it really hasn't made that much of a difference. That's 112 Fahrenheit. This is 110. So we are pretty much ready to go. That worked out well. So set that aside. So the lye water is now this kind of golden color from the peppermint. And I'm just going to pour it straight in. Now, normally you would actually pour this through the strainer as well. Oh, you're scared. Oh, thanks so much, Judy. So normally you would pour this through the strainer as well, right? Just to make sure that any undissolved lye crystals don't get into your soap. Oh, yes. Back on with this, by the way. That was a no-no. Always wear goggles when you're dealing with lye. But because I want those little flecks of peppermint in the soap, I'm just going to pour it straight in. I'm pretty sure it's such a small batch. I'm looking at it. It's fine. There's no lye in there, so we're just going to pour it straight in. Ready to go. Set that aside. Now, stick blender time. Burp, burp. Sorry, I'm a dork. Okay. So I hope you can see this. When you put the stick blender into your oils and lye water, you want to do it at an angle so that that air that's inside the head doesn't really, well, you can minimize the amount that's going to go into your soap basically. So we're going to do that, and we're going to use it just like a spoon and stir it. And we just want to incorporate all of that lye water and the oils together before we do anything else. Right. And when I have my soap making students, they're really not sure what to do, so I always tell them to bring the stick blender right into the middle of the pan, don't move it around at this point, and then just pulse for a couple seconds. And then stir. And then do the same thing. Just make sure that it's still, and that way you can minimize any of the air going in, and you won't have anything come up and smack you in the face or anything. And I'm going to show you as well. So it's changed color. Don't want to spill it. It's kind of like a pea green right now. It'll change. It'll start getting more opaque. And what we're looking for now is, so basically oils are made out of 3 fatty acids and another molecule which is glycerin. And what happens right now is that lye is breaking. Well, you didn't realize this was going to be a chemistry lesson, did you? So the lye is actually breaking those apart and reforming with the fatty acids and creating basically 3 molecules of soap and 1 molecule of free-floating glycerin, which is really great for your skin. So handmade soap is way better than the stuff you get in the shop. And while it does that, it also starts to thicken. So right now, this is a very light trace. So it's about the consistency of cake batter. We're going to keep pulsing a little bit though. It's getting a little bit lighter, so it gets more opaque and light. And stir. And we just keep doing this until it gets to a medium trace. And what that means is that it's the consistency of custard. Oh, that's fantastic, Jessica. Whereabouts do you sell your soaps? Is it in the States or is it here in Britain? Right. This is looking really good. Yeah, and you notice that I just keep the head of the stick blender straight down on the bottom of the pan. With small batches like this, you don't even have to lift it up. Just leave it down. Right, so now to check the trace, I'm just lifting this up, and the drips that fall on the top, if they stay on the surface for a little bit, then it's getting a little bit thicker. It needs a bit more time. Let's give it a long pulse. Stir it. Oh yes, it's coming together. Now, I interrupted myself. Now, the reason that I chose to make peppermint soap for my very first Facebook Live is that this is the first recipe that I tried making on my own. I taught myself how to make soap 7 years ago, and I failed. It was crazy. I didn't give up, obviously, but I still think back to that first batch, and I know exactly what I did wrong, but I want to show you, and it's so much easier seeing something done rather than reading it in some ways. I'm definitely a learner by watching. Right, so this has gotten to a medium trace, so it's thickening up. Yeah, there we go. And so I'm just going to take the stick blender, tap it on the side, and I'll just set it over in this bin with the water. So next, so we're in the 4th stage of making the soap. We're almost done, actually. So what we do now is we put in the essential oil. So for such a small batch, this is a 1 pound batch, I use generally about 1.5 teaspoons of essential oil. It's more than enough. More than enough. So let's do 3 of these. So that's a 1/2 teaspoon that I'm using. Ooh, that smells amazing. Now peppermint soap, peppermint essential oil has natural menthol in it, so when you use it in products like my peppermint foot balm that I retail, or peppermint soap, it has that kind of like cooling, zesty tingling to it. So we're going to stir that. This aside. Stir that. We're also going to put in grapefruit seed extract. You can get this at the health food store. You don't have to use preservatives in soap because all the water evaporates out in the end. But you do need an antioxidant. This helps the free-floating oils that are left over in the soap to stop from going rancid. So put 6 drops in there. Oh, I'm glad, Sarah. Isn't it just so much easier when you see something done? Right, let's give this a stir. It's so fun. You can combine gardening like I do. It's cooking. It's a bit of chemistry. I remember I had a soap make. I don't have very many guys in my soap making classes, but there was one where it was five gals and 1 guy. They were all work colleagues, and he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure about it. But then he realized it's like chemistry, and he was straight in there. Okay, what we're also going to do is put in a little bit more of the peppermint. Because that peppermint that was in the lye water was kind of chopped up by that stick blender, we'll just add another 1/8 teaspoon in. And what I love about peppermint and Melissa balm as well, some of the other kind of mint family, is that when you use a little flecks in the soap, over time they start to bleed a bit. So every little speck will have a halo of color around it, which I think it's just fantastic as a natural coloring and just gives it an extra added effect. Oh, hi Pia! Grapeseed oil, yes, you can use grapeseed oil. Actually, in this recipe, you can pretty much, you can substitute the sunflower oil for grapeseed oil. Oh, are you talking about this? This is grapefruit seed oil. And it is much thicker and very bitter. It's a dietary supplement. You can put it into water. Right, the other thing is that I do have to mention is that you need to stir this really well at the end, gently, but really well, because if you don't get all of that essential oil into the mix, you'll be left with streaks. Right, this is ready to go. So it's thick, smells great, and it's time to go into the mold. So here's an empty takeaway container. I've just lined it with baking paper, and this is to help stop it from sticking to the sides, and also you can use that paper to lift it up and out of the mold tomorrow. And so we'll start it up here, woo, and pour it all in. Right, so I've found actually that a 1 pound batch of soap fits perfectly into one of these takeaway containers. So if you do come across takeaway containers with either yourself or your friends, reuse them, recycle. Great. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a shake to settle it. And it comes with a handy lid. This is great for insulating it. And we're going to pop it on top. And then we're going to insulate it. So this is just an ordinary towel. You can use any towel. It's not going to be stained or anything. And what I'm going to do is just wrap it up so that it stays warm. It is super warm right now. And we want it to cool down gradually rather than right away. And oh, I could probably take this off now. So that the color stays homogeneous throughout the soap. And it can also intensify the color. So now that this is all wrapped up, I'm just going to move it aside. This has to stay in the towel for a full day, and it'll cool down during that time. I mean, you could take a little peek at it after a few hours, but you know, if you can, just leave it, forget about it. You know, when I have the soap making students here, I'm like, just put it in the boot of your car and forget about it. And tomorrow, at the same time, you can take it out, and through the magic of prior planning and soap making, I have one here. So this is what it looks like all hardened up. So the color was a little bit more green, so it softens into this really lovely, kind of like an antique green, very shabby chic. And I'm just going to pop it out. So that paper makes it really easy to be able to take it out of any container. But you know, if you're using something like this, you can just tear it off. So you don't have to ruin your soap. But there's a lot of soap molds out there that are non-silicone. And depending on your soap recipe, it can be really hard to get some of them out if you don't put in additional ingredients to harden your batches. Right, so we've got this. And I'm just going to peel off the paper. Right, so we've got a block of soap. Isn't that incredible? Say, Pia, you'd like to see the first 10 minutes I missed. You know what? This will be on replay. You can watch this again and again. It'll be on my page afterwards, so don't worry about that at all. Tess, loving this. Will it be on YouTube as well, please? You know what? I'm pretty new to Facebook Live, and I have no idea if I can take this video and put it on YouTube. I'd love to. If I can find out a way, I will do it. Oh, hey, Melissa. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so now that we have this block of soap, it's cooled. It has a little indent in the bottom. That's just because of my takeaway container. You can get ones that have flat bottoms. We're just going to put it on cutting board, just ordinary cutting board. Make sure that you're still wearing your gloves at this point. Also, make sure that you're wearing your gloves when you're washing up these pans. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups for soap makers. And a lot of beginners are on there. They're like, why is all the skin coming off of my hands? It's because you're washing up your pots without putting gloves on. Anyway, So we got this, and we're just going to use an ordinary knife and just cut it into bars. So I'll just do this. I'll be really generous because they're kind of shallow. And it's right now it's the consistency of like a mild cheddar. And there you go. So knowing how to make soap yourself is not difficult. You can learn to do it. I'll cut off another bar. This is so satisfying. This end part where you're just cutting these bars that you've made from ingredients that, however unlikely, combined to create beautiful handmade soap. It's just incredible. It's almost magical. So when I do the soap making lessons, we do 2 batches, and I just throw the students in the first batch, don't tell them anything, any of the steps beforehand, and then we jump into the second one, and everyone gets it. I've never had a failure, and loads of people go on to make their own soap afterwards. So that's it. Well, I guess also I should mention that you need to cure these. You can't use the soap right away. So what you need to do is you've got to give it at least 4 weeks to cure. So you've got to put it in a place somewhere in your house, maybe on a bookshelf, some place that is out of direct sunlight, it's airy, and you've got to let it cure. And that means you allow all of that water that we put into the lye to evaporate out. It's a ponification, so the lye combining with the oils, it basically ends about a week-ish after you make the soap, or so I'm led to believe. The rest of the time is allowing water to evaporate out. If you use it before the 4 weeks is up, then your bars of soap can disintegrate in the shower. You've probably had that happen to you before. Anyway, so we're all finished. And are there any other questions before? So do you rinse, wash the pots and utensils in a kitchen sink? Yes, I do mine. I wash mine manually with gloves. And I try to scrape out if there's any excess soap in there. I mean, it is soap, but there's a lot of free-floating oils in it too. I try to scrape that out as much as I can, and then I just wash it with ordinary washing up liquid. How about the drain? Will it get clogged? No. I've been making soap for 7 years. Touch wood. Where's wood? Probably shouldn't have touched my forehead wearing my gloves, but it's all right. No, it's fine. It's fine. Any other questions? Right. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my demonstration on how to make handmade soap. And if you'd like to learn more about making handmade soap, the introductory text of this video, which you can see again on replay as well, has links to not only this recipe, but also a link to my free 4-part natural soap making series. And if you have any other questions, feel free to leave me comments or just get in touch directly. Hi, Melissa! Yeah, thank you, and thank you all for joining me. And yeah, and if you have any ideas and further questions or comments, get in touch. Thanks so much.